What's up, everybody? It's Mr. Ferguson here again. Welcome back to my lawn here in central North Carolina. We just had tropical storm / depression Elsa come through and dump a bunch of rain pretty much all day yesterday. I really need to get to work on putting a French drain up here where we did the mulch and the natural fencing. Haven't even gone over there to really look at it in detail, but water just flows through here. But the ditch that I did in the back really works well. So anyways, point being, we got tons of rain from this tropical system in the shadows over here. As we mentioned in previous videos, we don't get a lot of sun, so we're waiting on this to dry out, maybe put a mow on this thing again, but we're looking good. So hopefully today will dry out a little bit. The neighbors have done some work over there under the trees. Looks really awesome. I was telling them, man, you can tell, a lot of people will just drive by and be like, oh, that's pretty. But man, they've put a lot of work in fixing this little shaded area over here on their property. So looking awesome for them. So you've probably already seen the thumbnail I've created that I've yet to create, but we're gonna talk about 4 products and what do you think they have in common? We're about to talk about it right now. What's up, YouTube? Mr. Ferguson here once again. Thank you guys for coming back for yet another video here in central North Carolina. Hope you're had a great weekend. You're having a great Monday thus far. Thank you for checking in, for clicking on the video. Be sure to subscribe if you're not. Click the bell, be notified of when these new videos are coming out so that you can immediately click on them and watch them, because I know you're just biting at the bit to get Mr. Ferguson content on your phone and your computer and your TV. So in all seriousness, thank you for those that return and have been subscribed and watching. If you're new for this new series that we've just started here recently, new to Lawncare, thank you for returning. This is the second video of the series. If you've not seen the first one, go check it out. I believe it's over here. It's one of these sides. Go check out the first video, then come back, because it's kind of like a continuation from that video into what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about several products. We're talking about the day that you are leading up to the fall and finally going to be able to take your seed, your fert, your tenacity, all of the products that we're going to talk about today and we talked about in the last video, your aerating. We're gonna throw it down. We're gonna have one solid day of work, and it's going to be the foundation of your new lawn coming up this fall for those that are wanting to have a nice, premium, good-looking, cool season lawn. We are starting the series to assist and help. So again, in this video, ask your questions below. We have lots of people that follow this channel, thank God, that are more experienced than I am. I'm just a DIYer like many of you that will be DIYers here in the future. We've got some lawn care pros. We've got some people that's been in lawn care for years with much more experience than me. So ask your questions below. But I'm going to quit yapping. You know the deal. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Thank you for coming, returning visitors, subscribers. Thank you for coming back. I'm going to throw you on the tripod. Let's talk about a couple products for a little bit, and we'll get you out of here. All right, guys, so you're seeing the final product of this video right now, but my Lord, it has been a struggle to get this video recorded. The sun has cut my phone off due to temperature. It's just flashed and the video has just stopped. I've done it inside, didn't like it, so now I'm recording it for like the 4th time, so bear with me. I'm trying to get this out to you in a way that's not too long, not too mumbly, and helps our new people out there. So now I'm on the front porch, and I got traffic coming by, so I do apologize. So just to briefly go over what we talked about in the last video, and I strongly advise you, please go watch the previous video that's up in one of these corners. Go check that out first and then come back to this one. But in case you don't have time, it's too in detail, I'm gonna give you a quick overview of what we talked about. Here is my little lawn care book that I first started with, and some of the things we first started talking about is getting your square footage, printing out your Google Maps section, walking it off, area equals length times width, how many what's the square footage of your lawn is what I'm trying to say here, and keeping a map of that and your zones and the different areas that you need to fert and you need to spray and you need to lay down stuff, and keeping a journal. Now we also use instead of using this now, I use on my phone the Yard Mastery app. It's very handy. It's very useful. Yard Mastery and iOS or Android. Look for it. It's got a journal. You can type in everything, and so I'm recording on my phone, but I have a listing of every single thing that I do to my lawn listed there, and the date and the current soil temperature. So it's very handy. I highly advise you to check that out. We talked about what we need to do, what we need to plan on doing the day that we want to plant our new cool season lawn. And so we talked about aeration. That is highly important. Renting the aerator, having the money set aside to rent it. How much will that cost? Getting it on a day so we can go and pick it up, and arranging, if you don't have a truck, to have a truck. If you need to call a friend that has a truck to come get it and go halvesies or full day. I think if you've got a yard that's 8,500 square foot like myself, or slightly bigger, slightly smaller, half a day is plenty of time to aerate it. So we talked about aeration. We talked about grass seed, how not all grass seed is the same. There's seed that has weeds in the bag of seed that you bought, that you're literally planting weeds in your grass, or like Jonathan Green, like GCI Turf, there's seed that is completely weed free, 100% guaranteed. And that's what I've planted in my yard, and I can tell you from my experience that GCI seed did not produce any weed seed in my backyard, period. Now I had existing weeds in my yard, but none of that came from the seed that I planted. So what type of seed do you need? Are you overseeding? Are you planting on bare dirt? How many pounds per thousand do you need to calculate out to put in your lawn? That's all things you need to think about now, so you're prepared. You buy the proper amount of seed, it's in the shed, and you're ready for planting day. So we talked about aerating, we talked about the seeding. Now today we want to continue into the other things that need to happen on planting day, as I call it. And so one of the things that you absolutely need to have is a starter fertilizer. And so I'm going to be using, once again, green pop. You want to lay down a starter fert. Now we're getting into what could be a totally different video, but quickly, what determines what is a starter fert? It's the middle number, and this is called the analysis, 1621-2. You see that right there, am I right? Yes, I'm reading it backwards on the camera. But that middle number being the highest number is what a starter fert typically is. And so that's heavy, I'm going to set it down. A starter fert has a lot of phosphorus in it. Phosphorus is what drives our roots into the ground, and we're all about getting deep grass roots. We don't want the sun to scorch it. We don't want snow to kill it. We don't want stress and anything to kill our grass. So we want deep roots, and water, we know, is deep into our soil. So we want deep roots. And so a starter fert is to start the lawn out pushing down roots, pushing the roots of this baby grass. So you want to get a solid starter fert, whether it's granular or liquid. It doesn't have to be the one that I just showed you, but that's what I'm going to be using because I have a backpack sprayer. I'm going to be filling that up with other products and spraying it. But if you don't have that, then you may have a push spreader. Get you a granular type of starter fert at Lowe's, Home Depot, or a local box store. Next, we want to talk about some what I call optional, and one of them is a product called Tenacity. Tenacity is a pre and post emergent herbicide, as it says right there. Tenacity is what I did my first video on, playing around with this product. Now, why are we using this during seeding? Number one, it won't hurt your grass seed. If you put down Tenacity on top of your grass seed, it's not going to harm your seed. It's not going to stop it from growing. The purpose of that and the idea of why people use Tenacity is because not only is it a pre-emergent, which means it stops bad things from coming up in your soil, it stops anything from growing in your soil, but particularly weeds, and it also can kill existing weeds on top of the ground. So it's laying down that invisible barrier on top of your soil to stop bad plant seeds from growing while your grass seed is growing. But also, if you have existing bad weeds on top, it can attack broadleaf weeds and kill those as well, depending on how you're using it. So it's almost like hey, I'm going to lay this on top of my grass seed and mix it with my starter fert here, and hey, if there's bad bad weeds that are trying to grow up, this is going to knock it out. If there's bad weeds on top of the ground, this might knock that out too, so that when my seed gets more mature, my grass seed, there's not weeds everywhere. So tenacity is something to consider. Read back up on it a little bit more. I've given you a very brief definition of what I use this for, or what I tend to believe this is used for. So I've used it both times. I've not had a lot of weeds come up when I planted grass seed, and also I plant grass seed that don't have weeds in them. So tenacity. The next two that we're going to talk about are totally optional. You do not have to go and buy these products to plant. If you have your aerator, you aerate your grass seed, you put it down, and you have your starter fert. I think that is the basics, and that's what you need, and go with it. You're good to go. But if you're wanting to germinate your seed a little bit faster, if you're wanting to do everything you can to try to be successful to get your grass seed to grow, there's two more products I'm going to use. One is called RGS, Root Growth Stimulant. That's at least what I call it. I don't really know what the RGS stands for, but I call root growth stimulant. This is a humic acid based solution that is a biostimulant. You hear us talk about biostimulants all around YouTube, here on my channel. And RGS is one of the backbone products of the next lineup, one of the basic core gallon liquids that it makes up the biostimulant package for next. And so it's got sea kelp in it, it's got humic acid in it, and its whole purpose is the secret juices that are in here is to help root growth, to drive that root. So it helps with the starter fert. This is a liquid biostimulant and additive. Almost think about it like taking your daily vitamins in the morning. You don't have to do that, but you do it to try to be a little healthier, to help your immune system or whatnot. This is kind of like that, how I think of it. RGS is not necessary, but I'm going to apply RGS to try to get my grass seed to the existing grass to continue to push roots down. For the sea kelp, helps with any drought. If we have a heat wave come in the fall, the sea kelp can help with that. The humic acid is always good for your soil. All of the next products are humic acid based products, which is unlocking nutrients that are in your grass, in your soil, to help the grass. So RGS, consider it. You can now buy these by the gallon. You don't have to buy 4 gallons. You can buy one of them. They're roughly between 35 to 40 bucks for a gallon, so they can be pricey. If you don't want it, don't have to have it, totally up to you. The next one we want to talk about may surprise you. Mr. Propiconazole. Yes, this is a fungicide. What is fungicide? A fungicide deals with fungus. If you have a cool season lawn, if you have fescue, then you probably more than likely have seen disease in your lawn. Humidity, ground temperature change, and that's a sticky bottle, so I'm not going to hold it forever. But Mr. Propiconazole cures that. You can put this down to prevent fungus. You can put this down to cure fungus. But on the label of this bad boy, I found out last year that it says it can help in aiding of germination. So if you do put down Propiconazole, yeah, you can be preventing fungus in case you get it in the fall. I don't think that's very likely, but it can aid in germinating your seed a little bit faster. It says it on the label. So another optional thing for you to check out there. So there you go. There are all the products, and I'm looking at them so I don't forget. We've got our main important one, which is our starter fert, and then we got some optional ones, tenacity, RGS, and then Propiconazole, all to help you be successful. That's why I'm going with a liquid starter fert, so I can add in my RGS, I can add in my tenacity, and maybe even a little bit of Mr. Propiconazole. But likely this year, this stuff is like over 100 bucks for a gallon. I'm probably not going to do it, to be honest with you, because I want to save this for when we're getting into next year and I start dealing with fungus. I've got some Propiconazole on hand. There's two very important things I don't have with me that we're going to conclude what you need on planting day. And to round it out, peat moss. If you're going to have bare areas where you're going to kill off this area because you don't like it, you're going to start fresh. The number one, you do need to put down more seed than you would in areas where grass exists. But number two, you want to try to cover that area with something so the birds don't get to it. Do not apply hay. Do not apply hay. Please don't. That puts a hay seed all in your ground, and you're going to see, and you'll notice that if you drive around where the state road or whatever puts down straw and hay, that you'll notice little green blades of grass shooting up everywhere. That's hay grass, and it shoots up taller than anything else. That's what you're going to be planting in the yard. Don't use straw or hay or whatever you may call it where you're at. Use peat moss if at all possible. I use peat moss. Go check out my video, The Big Day. we put it down. I put it down the year prior to that. Every time I've seeded, I've used peat moss. And the reason being is that peat moss retains moisture. When you water your grass, which is our next one, water, when you're watering all this seed and all of these liquids that we're putting down, the peat moss stays wet longer than the water that's just setting on the ground. So peat moss is huge, and everywhere that I put peat moss, I can tell you from experience, that's where my seed germinated the fastest. So if you've got lots of money and you can get lots of peat moss and you can cover your whole lawn, then by all means go for it. You can even buy a little round tool to spread it. It can be messy to spread, but it goes into number 2, which is the most important out of everything we're talking about, which is water, water, water. If you do not water the grass seed and keep it moist, if you do not water in your liquid starter fert or your granular starter fert, if you do not water in the RGS, the tenacity, and get the peat moss wet, then if you're not watering, then it's going to take forever for that grass, and some of it may die off, be eaten by the birds. You're not going to be as successful as if you water it. You must keep that seed moist, and the peat moss aids in keeping the seed wet. You want to keep it wet for the first up to 10 days at least. So I'm out here watering like a madman, and you may have to, and it's almost like a joke, but whether you're a guy or girl, you may tell your spouse, if they're a water Nazi, hey, look, I've just spent all this money on all these products, and we're going to be watering when I lay it down. So prepare yourself and the water bill, and that goes back to budgeting again. We need to have water on this lawn, so you got to have sprinklers. You need to have a way of getting the water on the lawn. So with that, I'm going to conclude it. I know it's a lot. I know it's a lot of information. It's boring seeing Mr. Ferguson just stand here and hold up bottles. It's not as exciting. I'm trying to make it as exciting as I can, but I want you to be successful, and these are all the things that I've done in my yard in the past, and we have been successful. So if you go about this route, follow the lawn plans from Alan Hain or from Pete, and get your square footage and aerate and put down your seed and your fert and your peat moss and your RGS and all these things. I promise you, if you'll stay at it, you'll prepare your dirt, get all the debris off, get all the rocks out, prior. These are the things you can be doing now. Cut all your, if you've got dead grass, if you've got living grass, you want to cut your grass a little bit lower, and you want to make sure that the night before you aerate also, that if it's not rained recently, you need to water, because you don't want to aerate a rock hard ground. Believe me, it's almost like a waste of time. So you want to have a moist ground. There's so many details, things that I'm forgetting. So folks in the comment, help me out. I can't cover everything. I know our attention span nowadays is like a gnat. So hopefully this helps you out with what we need to do for the first day, planning day. I'm not making this video anymore. I've said the same thing over and over again. So thank you for coming by. I'm sorry it's so long. I'm sorry it can be boring just listening to a dude talk, that I don't have the capability to make it any more exciting. But I'll try to throw in, obviously I've done everything that we've talked about in this video. I've done it, and I even recorded it, and I even posted it here on the channel. It's called The Big Day. Go watch it. It shows you how I aerated. It shows you how I planted, my seed with my spreader. It shows you how I did my spray, and then we watered up until that night, and it took a whole Friday to do everything. So it's one hard day's work, but the payoff is for the rest of the year. So for one day, I have a beautiful yard for the rest of the year, into the fall, into the winter, into the spring, and now even into summer, until it's time to overseed and freshen it up a little bit. So God bless you guys. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it has been somewhat educational, somewhat entertaining, somewhat informative, and helpful for you. Let me know in the comments if you're new, if you've never done this, if you plan to try it this year. Would love to hear from you guys. Share it with a friend. Share it with a family member. Share it with somebody that may have mentioned to you at, at 4th of July. Man, I'm going to try to have a nice yard this fall. Maybe they don't even know they need to plant in the fall. They think it needs to happen in the spring. Send this to them. That's when we need to plant for cool season, the fall. Springtime, don't want to do it then. So God bless you guys. Hope you've enjoyed this video. We'll see you on Wednesday. We're going to talk about something I got in the mail. We may try to tie it into something devotional, but check it out. I know you guys aren't thrilled to hear devotional talks, but man, I love the Lord and I want to talk about him. But this Wednesday, we're going to talk about some seed that I got in the mail. Tune in Wednesday and find out. Midweek Quickie. God bless. See you next time.